குரல் ரெக்கார்டிங் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணிக்க. So good evening all. This is Dr. S. Shekhar, founder and managing trustee of Star International Foundation for Research and Education, Tamil Nadu. I welcome you all for the day 3 of 7 days online workshop on research methodology and publication ethics. I would like to introduce few words about today's resource person, Dr. A. Kavita Madam. She is an accomplished academician, educator, and researcher with extensive experience in the field of commerce. She began her career as assistant professor and has since held key leadership role, including head of the department, IQAC member, NAC criteria coordinator, and academic audit panel member. Passionate about students centered learning, Dr. Kavita integrates innovative teaching methodologies to bridge traditional pedagogy with modern education techniques. She has authored numerous research papers in Scopus Indexed Journal, published book chapters, and secured a patent for her research contribution. Her dedication to academic excellence has earned her prestigious award like Young Researcher Award 2021, Best Researcher Award 2022, Beyond Academia. She is an active social worker committed to knowledge sharing and educational development. I welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your welcoming. Hello.
Thank you.
And whether
Thank you. Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Okay, sir. Shall I continue?
Yes, madam.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. So at the end of the session, you can ask any questions. So in between that, if you have doubts or anything, at the end of the session, you can ask. Shall I start with the session? Okay. It's a pleasure to have with you the workshop is a literature review and then conceptual works. Today, my part of the next slide, sir. My part of the work, I'm going to introduce the theoretical, that is going for the theoretical aspect. Before that, I have a slides that is research problem, hypothesis, conceptual framework, and assumptions, data, that is review of literature, research design, data collection, data processing and statistical treatment, analysis and interpretation, and finally summary, conclusion, and recommendation. So in the next hour, that is next 1 hour, we have to explore the importance of the review of literature part. Some part of that is some tips we are going to make it in the review of literature, hypothesis, and framework of the work also. So by the end of the session, you should have a deeper understanding on the literature review and the conceptual framework. So let us make this a interactive session so free and ask a question at the end of the thing. So first one, let me explain about the conduct the effective research, well follow a structural process with a diagram on outline of this essential concept of the research studies. So let's break the step by step with this conceptual framework, that is the framework of the theoretical aspects. Then let me explain that. First, you have to find out the research problem. I'm going to explain this entire PPT from this slide alone. So this slide, first concept will be, I'm going to explain about the research problem. Research problem, what is research problem? Find out the fundamentals or the foundation of any research is identify the problems or gap is knowledge, and we can identify how they can identify the research problem. Say, for example, if we are studying the consumer behavior, the research problem could be asking a question: why do the customer prefer one brand or other brand, other or over the other brand? So the question will be asked by the researcher itself. So why the brand will be choosing, if the consumer behavior point of view. Say, for example, in marketing concept means we can go for the research problem. Would you, why do the customer prefer one brand over the another brand? So if you raise this kind of a question as a researcher point of view, then they will. Next slide, sir. So first, if you're asking a question, immediately we have to go through some of the theoretical background of this problem, that we have to go through with the some of the journals or some of the articles we can go through, and we can find out why, where, when, and all these questions, and all we will be getting the solution. So as per this review of literature, so first, second chapter, as per go for the introduction, when you go for the PhD thesis or anything you are going to write as a article, all these things, the first one, it's a backbone of the research work, means it's a first concept we are going for, the first important things we are going to give for the review of literature. So let me explain about the review of literature in a productive way. So it's a briefly summarizing study related to your research. So what kind of a topic you are going to take, that topic, whether it is relevant. So previously any study is made there, or finding that it includes the purpose, procedure, major findings and recommendations for the further study for the various research conducted in the past. So we have to make a past analysis, that is previously who are all the person who come across this, and how do they are deviated, that is how do they are deviated from one person to the another perception, and how they will be outcome next, they will be given the solution. So that we have to find out that. Next, sir. So what are the importance of the literature review? So when you finding this review, main thing, why we have to go for the review? The important thing to determine the that is, we have to go for the differentiations of the finding between the past and the present. So when you're taking the study of the any study, you are going to take past, that is previous aspects, the what are the researchers previously what they did, that they will be getting from them in a proper manner. They have to differentiate it to finding out between the past and present studies. So past means the previously the person who give the innovative ideas to the present situation, that is past ideas will be given for the present idea, present situations, how do they can implement it in the future thing. That we can find out from the review of literature. Second point, second important aspects of the review of literature, we have to go for to gain insight into the aspect of the problems that critical that is critical finding, that is critical aspects you have to find out. Critical means when you before going for the hypothesis, that is once you are going for the hypothesis, so it's a study of the that is the essence of the review only. We can moving for the next concept. So critical problem solutions will be getting through the studying there. Sometimes after the review, few reviews you can carry on. You can deviate it from the topics also. So the topic what you are chosen in the previously, that might be differentiated from at the time of the going for the next concept also. So gaining the critical part will be getting the proper solution for it. And third important points to help your organizing and concept and the principles of the fundamental to your research. So you're as a researcher, the fundamental principles you can get an idea about it. Next slide, sir. So the review can be having the three parts of we can categorize in the three ways, that is three parts. When you're collecting the reviews, you can take as three parts. So first part related to the legal basis, second part related to the literature, and third part related to the studies. So first one, we can be moving for the next slide, sir. Related to the legal basis. So legal basis. So previous slide. Related to the legal basis means as per the legal aspects, you have to consider, that is, these are all the for or against, that as per the protocol we have to follow or not. That will be taking an evidence of the review of literature. Literature means the past aspects, what you are given in your present situation, that will be relevant to the previous aspects, that you can take it in the literature. That is the language point of view, you have to take in mind in the clear format, and then we can go for the study. So related studies, previous studies. Say for example, one of the person is taking in the very simple aspects of the celebrity advertisement in the marketing, because very live topic, as well as every advertisement will be coming from the nowadays fast moving goods and all will be using for the celebrities only. So how influenced by the celebrities, that we can relate it with the previous study. So celebrities will be come for that. Most of the advertisement will be coming from the jewelry and real estate, and then at the time of a festival, you can that the celebrities will be coming from the few textile advertisements and all. So the celebrities will be taking from the main aspects of the studies alone. Next concept. So when you're writing the review of literature, so first one, it must be a document. So whatever the research you are there, whatever the review you are collected, that will be first you have to be documented. So document aspects you have to take for that. In a written, in olden days, they will take a written, the first one, they will write the person name who wrote this, and what are the studies they are made, and what is an objective of the study, and then the next aspects they will be given from that. What is that? The hypothesis. They will go for the hypothesis and the conceptual framework, and review related, that is literature related to the reviews. This and all they will make the documented aspect. That is, it must be documental aspect, facts, and conceptual process, which were based upon the research, that is past research. Second one, reference information should be correctly recorded. So where, that is, references means at the end of the paper where you got and which sources you got and date and time, all those things will be taken in the references, and describe the similarities and differences among the research studies. So they can make it in the proper manner of the research studies in the similarities, because the same study will be coming from the other author also. So what is the differentiation from that study to this study, that you have, that can be find out as a research gap. Next one. So fourth one, including the following as a general background information of your research paper. So what your concept, that concept will be taken from that. In a background informations, you have to make a point. In that point, one by one, you have to your objectives and your idea, but will be generated from the previous aspect. Lively, you can give for examples. So live examples, live things will be the organizing. So giving a common name, scientific name, and a classification of the organism, that will be the live thing. Second point, briefly describe the organisms. That is, we can go for the habit, and psychologically the part which we are taken, the person point of view you are taking, and the life cycle of the product, and behaviors of the respondent to the environment. So anatomy of the entire skeleton will be given to the study. That will be living things of the organism. So first 2 points, giving the common name, scientific name of the reviews, and giving the classifications of the organism. Second point, briefly describe about the organism. Briefly describe the skeleton will be given to the work. Next point, next slide. So to provide the details information in areas that are directly applicable to the study. So what you are taking the study, that study will be applicable to the direct, that is present situation, how it was taken. If you are using more than one organism, that is provide the information, each and every information will be collectively taken evidence. So based on giving this information, predict how you are thinking the organism will act in your experiment. So experiment means your study will be based upon the experiment. That is, if you taken the scientific studies means if you taken a chemistry or you would physics studies and all, they can make it use of the experimental basis. So finally, they will not be in a systematic manner. They cannot be concluded. So what result will be getting from that? That will be given for the not on the prediction basis. The result ultimately what they are getting, that will be produced as a result. Next. So next aspect is a behavior. So second point is the behavior. So briefly describe the types of the behavior. One is types of the behavior means first type of the behavior will be taken from that different behavior. The person will be having a different perception, different attitude, how they will be mingled with the person, and the consumer point of view, the marketing studies and all, the consumer behavior, it's a different behavior. There will be perception will be taken from the customer's point of view. So that's why the behavior point of view, you can have the first one, the type of behavior, and primarily factors influencing the behavior, and third one, value of the behavior, and fourth one, so methods of describing the behavior. So the behavior itself, you have the main aspects, that is different aspects the consumer, that as a person perceptions will be different from the person to the person. And second point that you can be, after describing this, the second we can move on to the identifying the critical factors. Critical factors means what are the factors you are taken into the reviews, that is factors in your studies that will be critically you can be evaluated, that you can be identified this. Then finally, that is not finally, third point, if you have more than one type of the behavior, it will be described from the similarities to the difference. Same thing, that is same, or it will be different, it will be deviated. That will be given as a point wise. So first point, you can go through with the similarity. This study to this another study, you have the same thing, or the one person perception to the another person perception, that the author will be given, the differentiations will be taken from that. Next point. Next slide. And fourth point, it will be taken from the based on giving the information, prediction, and how you're thinking the organism will act in your experiment. So after your experiment, that is, if you at the time of experiment itself, what you are predicted, that the same thing you are going to proceed with, that it is going in a right path. We have to make it in a correct way. And third one is the process and the procedures. So process and the procedures, we have a few points. So first process is the describing the purpose of the process. The major steps will be where it is occur and how it is related to the experiment. That will be described in a positive, or sometimes it might be a negative manner also. So if more than one process it is involved, provide the information on each process. Each process means each and every objectives, your hypothesis will be, that is, one will be defined the problem, and assumptions or the predictions that can be made from to be tested. Say for example, so brand reputation influence to the customer purchase decisions, or giving the information from the predictions also. Next slide. So fourth one is the matter. What matter you're taken in that? That is, what is a main work you're taken for your reviews. So briefly describe the substance, chemical composition, and then we can moving on for the common names, formula. These are all the scientific studies. In the matters they will be given. Physical or chemical physics. I told you, scientific things, physics studies and chemistry studies, and the chemical reactions will be there, and the method of the predictions, the productions will be used. So next one, they provide the details information on the characteristics that are directly applicable to the study. So directly or the indirectly, they can use for the main aspects of this concept. Next one. So the formatted or the style of related to the studies, it will be published for the works mentioned to the related information, then enclosed in the main. There are when you go for the theoretical aspects of the literature review, so you have to make it in a 2 or 4 person or 1 or 2 person joined together, and they can use the author. So single author or 2 authors, or sometimes when you go for the multiple authors. So nowadays they can use with the corresponding authors also. So when you go for focus index publications and all, so single author will be taken from, if that is, you can give the prioritization for the first author, then second author and third author. Now they are using for the corresponding author also the same weightage also. Clear. Next one. So some suggestions for the organizing for your review of literature will be given. So create a categories for your reviews, that is literature reviews, grouping together with the similar studies, and being with the most recent studies, then work with a backward, that is backward means the previous studies will be taken, and whenever the possible includes and inclusiveness, the review related to the local researchers. Next, sir. So set of work you have to take for that when you go for the research. Set of work means the first one, identify the source which was to be legal basis. That is already I told you in the first slide itself, legal basis, that LB, and related literature RL, and related studies is the RS. So the first point, it's a before going for the aspect, that is the theoretical aspects, let me explain about the what do you mean by hypothesis. So when we define the problem, we develop the hypothesis and the assumptions or the predictions that can be tested. For instance, I told you the brand perception or the consumer behaviors or influence for the customer's point of view, that you have to be taken. After the hypothesis, next you have the conceptual framework and the assumptions. So conceptual framework helps to define the variables and the relationships in our own studies, and assumptions are underlying with the briefly to the guide to our researchers. So when you're going for the review of literature, before conducting one study, we must review to existing the research to understand the past findings. The review of related literature, that is RRL, is a crucial steps in the research. It involves summarizing and analyzing the past studies related to our topic. So purpose of the literature review, so let me explain before going for the set of work. So purpose, what purpose you are going for the review means, it helps us to understand what research has related be done. We can identify the gaps in knowledge and justify why our study is needed. So after going for the purpose, the components of the good literature review, how you can take it. So it summarizes the relevant studies. It includes the research purpose, procedures, and major findings from the previous works. So it discusses the recommendations from past research and then suggests the areas of the further studies also. Say for example, if our study is about the social and so that is social media marketing or consumer behavior point of view, or we can go for the financial database also, primary data or secondary data, whatever might be. So we would review the past research on the consumer engagement and brand awareness and digital strategies also. So there are 3 parts of the reviews. Already I told you before going up the set of the work. three parts of the review related, that is literature review. Once again, I'm repeating that slide. I explaining that is already legal related, that is related legal basis. So discuss law, policies, and legal framework relevant to the research topic. Second one, already I told you, related literature means cover, that is cover books. Let me give the example, because priorly I didn't give the examples. Now I will give the examples with the related legal basis, means discussion with the law as per the rules and regulations, the protocol of the law, and then policies, legal framework, and relevant to the research topic. So what are the relevant needed for the research topic that you can be taken from the law. And related literature means that related literature given the cover books, journals, and articles provided by the background of the knowledge. Related studies means that includes the previous researchers' works and finding related to the current studies also. So when you go for the tips in writing the review of literature, document accepts, because I'm recollecting the thing, document accept the facts, concepts, and process. So properly record the influences, the informations to avoid the plagiarism, because in olden days we don't have this plagiarism and that. Now we can avoid the properly record informations, references from the information to avoid the plagiarism, highlight the similarities and differences among the various studies. So format or a style, citing the related studies. This will shows the format of this. I told you that single author, double author, and then multiple author. What is single author means? Mention the author and year in the mention the author name and when they wrote this journal and the articles, that will be clearly mentioned. Two authors means list both authors with the year, and multiple authors means use the first author name followed by the et al and the year. So that is comes under the multiple authors. So when you go for the suggestion for the organizing the review of related literatures means the suggestions of the organizing by the grouping similarity studies into the categories and starting from the recent studies and moving to backward and including the local research whenever it is possible. So when you're going for this work, the set of this kind of things will be comes under the set of work. So I think this slide is next slide, sir. So next we are moving to the hypothesis. Hypothesis, before going for this proposed solution, educated prediction, all these things, the proposed solution and educated prediction and meant to be the tested through the researcher. So guidelines in the next slide, guidelines in the hypothesis formulation. The slide will be explaining how to formulate the hypothesis. It should be clearly and briefly. So briefly, it should be clearly explained by the relationship between the two variables and defined with the variables in the operational measurable terms. So it should be clear and brief, must show the expected relationship between the two variables. So define the variables in operations and measurable in the terms also. So adapt. Next slide, sir. So a hypothesis should be based on the past experiment and observations or on the information gathered from your research. So should take into the account the result of the experiment, observation. So when you go for the scientific research, you have to make it for the not only scientific thing, the testable. We can make it for the observation also, the mention of the articles. Next one. So hypothesis must be the testable one. It can be proven right or wrong depending on the outcome of the experiment. So outcome means the past experiment, the past review, who are all the persons who did. From the experiment itself, we can get an output. that output will be relevant for our study at the present situation. It is aptly adaptable or not, and this hypothesis might be based upon the past experiments. It states that this hypothesis should be based on the previous research and observation and information gathering to the review of the literature. And this hypothesis should be stated how there will be very least or two factors related or not. Next. So always we have to remember, when an experiment fails, the hypothesis should not be the changes to conform to the result of the experiment. So when the hypothesis should not be in the, always the hypothesis might be changing. So perception of the changing of the experimenter means, that is a study means, it might be go for the negative way also. So what your the pilot study, when you before going for the pilot study, so what you make it for the hypothesis, that must be in a clear format. Next. So what are the types of the hypothesis? So first point, the research hypothesis. Under the research hypothesis, we have the alternative hypothesis stated in a declarative form, and third one derived from the literature review, and it should be suggested to the outcome of the experiments. So in this aspect, that is the resonance of the, that is mainly we can go for the substance. The alternative hypothesis means that prior studies itself, some substitute aspects also, some other aspects also we can make it. So in the concentration of the substance A, to increase the scientific studies, that is botany studies and all, the plant grow will be reduced. So when you go with the agriculture aspects, the researchers will be find out this pesticides will be using, it is correct or not, and if that pesticides is suitable for that conditions or not, that we can be find out this. Next slide, sir. So testable on the hypothesis, that is types of hypothesis. Before going for the types of hypothesis, testability of the hypothesis we have to do. So the slide emphasizes that the hypothesis must be testable through experiment, and it should be explain the relationship between the test of the two factors. So what are the test of the two factors means, through these types of the hypothesis only we have the test. So the research hypothesis, we have research hypothesis or alternative hypothesis. So when you have the problem, there is a significant means difference on the general acceptability of the general acceptability means we can go for the see this problems, seeing this problem, the hypothesis that there should be a significant mean differences on the general acceptability of the layman also. So next slide, sir. So statistical hypothesis will be we can use the null hypothesis, negative statements, and the reference to the population and the respondents, that is the represents to the vehicles by which finding or generalizing from the sample to the population. So sample of the populations to be, we can use the sample size. With the help of the sample size, we can be testing the statistical hypothesis. When a sample of the insect A is the regularly, say for example, I am giving this. So pesticides X for 1 week, 100% the sample will be die. None will be the survey also. So next point, that is next aspects, the height of the point. So different aspects, the growing plant will be the different aspects we have to think. So first sample will be the which pesticides you are using. That pesticide, the first 1 week we have the 100% will be getting the result, will be very satisfied. What we are going, that is in a correct path. But if it is not, it means the day by day at the time of observing the plant growing itself, it's growing or not growing, it will be dying. The stages will be finding that. So none will be the survival. Second point, it means the height of the plant exposed to the 0. It will be taken from step by step. Step by step means from the 0, 10, 20, and 30 substance A are not significantly different. So next slide, sir. So statistical hypothesis, we proven thing we have to go for the statistical hypothesis, that is null hypothesis. So there is a significant differences on the yield of the peanut plants in the pot using peanut plants they're using from the soil, that is light soil, and then we can use for the wastage, what we are used in the homemade wastages things and all, that we can be dumped in one pot or one dustbin box itself. We can use it, and then that will be for after 1 week we can be used as a fertilizers also. So this some of the researchers, some of the YouTube channels also, they will told like this. There is a no that fertilizers will be very very good manner they can be used. So the hypothesis, there is no significant differences on the yield of the peanut plant in pot using soil, and then chicken drugs and the fertilizers will be used. Next one. So here the testable of the hypothesis already I told you. The slide emphasized, that is previous slides, is emphasized that the hypothesis must be testable through the experiment. So it should be explained by the relationship between the last two factors. What are the last two factors means the types of hypothesis. The types of hypothesis means the slide categorized by the hypothesis into research hypothesis, types of hypothesis, and then second one is the research hypothesis. Research hypothesis, a declarative statement predicting the outcome, and say for example, if the concentration of the substance increases, the plant growing will be reduced. So these are all the aspects when we are discussing for the literature review. So when you go for review of literature, first let me explain that these are all the aspects when you go for the review of literature. So in that review of literature, main thing, let me explain that that conceptual before after completing of the review of literature. So let me explain before going to the conceptual framework. Let me explain about the research methodology. Then only we can go for the conceptual framework. So research methodology is the term that basically means the science of how research is done scientifically. It is a way to systematically and logically solve a problem. It helps here. It helps us to understand the process, not just the product of research, and analyzes the method in addition to the information to obtain by them. So this is the first thing we are going for the research. What is research and how the methodology will be taken. So what are the types of the research methodology means? First one, basic research. Second one is the applied research. And third one, problem-oriented research. And fourth one, problem solving. And fifth one, it is a quantitative research and qualitative research. Once again, I'm repeating before what are the types of the research methodology means? Basic research, applied research, problem-oriented research, and problem solving research, quantitative research, and the qualitative research. So first let me explain about the research problem. So a research problem is a statement about an area of concern or a condition to be improved, a difficulty to be eliminated, or a troubling questions that exist in the scholarly literature. So in theory or in a practical, the point to be needed for the meaningful understanding and deliberately investigations. So what is research problem? Next question will be arised by that. What is research problem statement? Research problem statement. What is a research problem statement? A problem statement is the description of an issue currently existing which need to be addressed. So it provides the context for the research study and generates the questions which the research aim to answer. The statement of the problem is the is the point of any research, a point of view of any researcher, and research will be there. So that is called as a problem statement. Second question you will be asking that how would you identify the problem? So here there are 7 steps for an effective problem solving process. So identify the issues, be clear about what the problem is. Understand everyone interest. And third one, list the possible solution that you have the options also. Fourth one, evaluate the options. And fifth one, select an option or options. And next point, sixth point, document the agreements. Documentation, what are the agreements will be made, that should be documentation. And finally, agree and contingency and monitoring and evaluation. So we have to keep in mind some of the important points by defining the research problem. So let me explain that when you go for the research problem, that first let me give some key points, that important points for keep in mind for defining the research problem. So research problem, the correct question needed to be addressed if the research is to be help decision makers. The right answer to the wrong question lead either to bad advice or to no advice. So once again, I'm repeating the point. First one, the correct question needed to be addressed. If research is to be help decision maker, the right answer to the wrong question lead either to bad advice or to no advice. Second one, usually in problem we have an rationalized and defend our actions. Once we have start up a specific research plan, the perfect time to examine and think about the alternative techniques in the planning stage. So if it is the complete unnecessary expense of false stating and redoing the work may be prevented. Third one, an excellent beginning in problem identifying is to ask what the decision makers want to keep if the request information can be gathered without error and without expenses. Fourth one, another excellent rule to follow is never settle on the specific strategy without developing and taking into the consideration at least one alternate option. And fifth point I'm giving this, the problem definition stage of the research is the determining and structuring of the decision maker question. It should be decision maker questions and not to the researcher question. And finally, a last one, that what decision do you face? That question must be asked by the person, or the researcher have to ask themselves, what decision do you face? So that unless you have to decision to make, there isn't any research problems. So that will be the first one, and that you have to go for the types of research also. So there are different types of research. The basic one, descriptive, that is a descriptive analytical. The descriptive research consists of a survey and fact finding and the inquiries of the different types. The main objectives of the descriptive research is described, that is before going for the conceptual work. These things is very important. That's what I'm explaining this. The descriptive research consists of the surveys and fact-finding inquiries of the different types. The main objectives of the descriptive research is describing the state of state of affairs as its prevalence of the time of the studies. So the term X means past factor research, and it is quite often used for descriptive research studies in social science and business research also. So the most distinguished features of this method is to be the researcher has no control over the variables here. So here he or she has to only report what is happening or what has happened. That will be asking, that is what is happening or what has happened. So majority of the post facto researcher project are used for descriptive studies in which the researcher attempts to examine the phenomena such as the consumer preferences, and we can go for the frequency of the purchases and shopping, like etc. So the ability of the researchers to control the variable exposed to factor studies may be also the comparison attempts by them to discover the cause of the selected problems. So the method of the research adopted in conducting the descriptive research or survey method of all kinds, including the correlation and comparative methods. So meanwhile, in the analytical research, the researcher has to use the already available facts and information and analyze make a critical evaluation of the subjects. So applied versus the fundamental. Next aspect, we are moving of the applied versus and the fundamental. So third one is the quantitative versus the qualitative, and then conceptual versus empirical, and then we can moving of the
Madam, sorry, madam.
Yes,
Madam,
yes, sir.
you can check the slide, madam.
Sir, this I will explain. Then after that, I will explain the conceptual framework, sir.
Okay.
That's what, because directly if you go for the conceptual framework means that is what I mean. This concept I will explain. Then I will go for this.
Okay, madam. Okay.
So other types of the research. So let me explain about the applied research. So you have the types of research. Once again, already I explained you the types of research: quantitative and the qualitative, and the conceptual versus empirical, and other types of research is also there. So some steps in the research process also. What are the steps in the research process? Means selection of research problem. First one is the selection of research problem. Second one is the extensive research literature survey. Third one, making the hypothesis. Fourth one, preparing the research design. Fifth one, sampling. Sixth one, data collection. Seventh, data analysis. And the eighth one, hypothesis testing. And the ninth one, generalizing and interpretation. Finally, you have the preparation of preparation of the report. So preparation of the report, we have that research should be prepared the report which is done in this work. So we must keep in mind the following some of the points while that the research will be there. In the first point, we have the report design in the primary stage, main text of the report, closing the report, and limitation of the scientific research we have to use. So now we can go into the conceptual framework. So previous slide. So what is conceptual framework? Now I will get inside to the conceptual framework. So it is a general statement which format the frame of reference for your inquiry or the investigation. And already I told you, usually it must be in the representing by the graphical or diagrammatic way, or in the form of diagrammatic way or the graphical way we can be using. It provides that basic of conducting your research, and what are the basis you are going to conduct the research, that will be given in your conceptual framework. And then we have the tentative schemes for the research project based upon what we are did in the literature review. So next aspect, sir. Next slide. So what are the types of conceptual framework means? So first type is the relationship of key concept, and second one is the relationship of the key variables. What are the importance of the relationship means? That is the conceptual framework. Why we need for the conceptual framework in that research means it helps you to focus your research, and the second one, it gives you the proper the proper identifying the problem. So you identify the problems, the prospective problems we can be identified. And third one, we have it provide you to the guides you to make your hypothesis, and after the experimental and explaining your findings. That's what I explaining about the main concept of the research reports above. Next point, next slide. So these are all the key variables. So already I explained you about the independent variable and the intervening variable and the dependent variable. It's moving independent variable to the intervening variables, and the intervening variables to the, finally we can go for the dependent variables. Next. So this is an example for the what is the effect of aloe vera extract on the rate of growth and regeneration of the that is plantation. That is, when you go for the plant, already I explained it from the agricultural point of view. The same thing, the aloe vera plant, these two things will be, when you grow with the plant, these two growth aspects as well as the regeneration aspects. Next slide, sir. So that will be an example for this effects, and what are the key concepts means. First one, goals. First we can give for the goals. What do you want to know and why? Second, in the literature review itself, I told you. Second one, we can go for the research question. So you have to prepare the research question. What specifically do you want to know? And third one, it will lead to the methods. How will you answer your question? Finally, interpretation. How will you understand your result? Next slide, sir. These are the key concepts. And these key concepts will be these are all the main the screening of the I think you can get the process from the first. I think you are all very clear in that this graphical representation. This chart very clearly pre-formulations and then screening and the chromological mass spectrum and the microbiological processor. Next one, sir. Next slide, sir. The next slide.
And just a minute. Ma'am, it shows it is the final slide that you sent.
So, sir, I will complete this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So I told you. So the main thing, the steps of the research process, selecting of the research. Once again, I'm repeating this: the selecting of the research problem and extensive literature survey, and then third one is the making a hypothesis, and fourth one is the preparing research design, sampling, fifth one, and data collection and data analysis, hypothesis testing, then generalization and interpretation and preparation of the report. So the preparation of the report itself, once again I'm repeating, the preparation of the report should be clear about the title. Before title, the researcher should prepare a report for which he has done in his work. He must keep in mind for the few points. Report design is a primary stage. The report should carry the title, brief introduction about the problem and background, followed by the acknowledgement. There should be a title that is table of content, graph, and then chart. So the main text of the report, it should be contain the objective, hypothesis, explanation, and methodology of the research. It must be divided into chapters, and every chapter explain the separate title in which summary of the findings should be enlisted. The last section would be clearly the conclusions, clear of the conclusions, show the main theme of the our study. The closing the report. Finally, we have the closing the report. After the preparation of the report, the last step in the business research process contains the bibliographic references and then appendix. Then index, then maps, charts for illustration. For this purpose, the information should be more clearly they have to show. So after this conceptual framework, finally we have to go for the limitation aspects also. So the limitations of the social science research, from the social science point of view, I will give you limitations also. The questions of the objectives has been central to the methodological debates of the social science from the beginning. So from the beginning itself, we have some questions of the objectives has been central to the methodological debates of the social science, and it means the willingness and the ability to examine the evidence. So it is the first conditions of the research. So limits of the social science means the social science we have some limits. Social science is the part of the human society and the judgments and the subjective and colored by the researchers and own experience. The subject matter of the social science research is too complex. All propositions are limited, and particularly from the social groups and the context. So finally, the social scientist fails to achieve the objective because the respondents of the human, respondents of the human beings have the certain human problems. Say, for example, refusal of the respondent, improper understanding, and misleading of the research. All these problems cause to be bias and be invalidated the research findings and conclusions. So when you having this, finally the preparation of the report also I explained. So this sessions will be taken from not only from the literature review and the conceptual framework, for entire thing, preparation of the report and preparation of the research work. Entirely, I'm explaining all the concepts. If you have any doubts, please you can ask the question, sir. Take it, sir.
Yes, madam. Please wait, madam. Participants are requested to ask any doubt. You can unmute your mic and ask directly to the resource person.
Sir, you can move the slides, sir. From the beginning, somebody will ask a question, no? From slides. Slowly you can move the slides, sir. They may be having some doubts in the slides. Thank you, ma. Vijayalakshmi, thank you.
Hello, good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
This is Nita Mahale, ma'am. I am a research scholar
Very
in the DY Patil University. My question is what, ma'am? Actually, I want to just create a problem statement, but it is very difficult to me. How to create a problem statement?
research problem.
Yeah,
So,
because before going to the literature review or literature survey, we have to find out the problem. Na? So I am just thinking about the yoga. According to the yoga positions, I want to correct that position actually, and already the IEEE papers are available there. So I want to search for some new, but how? Just tell me the way actually to find out the new problem statement.
yoga statement, no? That is, you have a what study? You told yoga, no?
Yeah, yoga position correction.
The research gap there. That means previous ones, if, for example, myself, I make one study, and I will, in the yoga aspects, I will take some study. I make some study, and your friend also make some study. So this will be differentiated from one aspect to the another. Say, for example, my perception will be differentiated to your friend also. Is it correct?
Okay.
So your here perception, different perceptions. So you are going to take a topic, position point of view. You're going to take a topic in position, no?
Yeah.
What's the topic? What is your idea?
Ma'am, according to the decisions of the people, my app will suggest the some yoga, and sometimes the persons are not doing well actually yoga positions. So according to I want to just searching about it, that using the computer vision, I want to take images from the yoga positions, and I have to train the machine for just correcting that positions in this way.
So previous studies, you don't have this kind of things, no? Is it correct or not? Yeah, you want to give a new innovative idea. So this is the Peter Drucker has told this. Now I am collecting with the review. Peter Drucker is one of the famous person. Only give that as an innovative idea will be a successful. So that is quoted in the literature review. So that idea nobody has insisted. So that you can be created, don't create as a research gap, that will be created as an objective in your study.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear.
Yeah.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
There is a question from YouTube coming about his name is Quebec Xavier. He is asking, is there any difference between reference and bibliography?
Reference and bibliography. Reference will be given from the that is bibliography. The person who wrote the article, who wrote the project, or who wrote the thing will be, the person name will be called as a bibliography. Okay. Say, for example, this slides is prepared by myself, and Dr. A. Kavita is prepared this. This is the I'm writing one book, means the person name will be there as a bibliography. Clear? Clear or not? And references, that one among the person, Kavita is also a one among the person, is written the thing, the textbook. That is called as a reference. Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay. Because these things, it's a valid question from the literature review. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, dear. Any other questions? I think the session was good. Everything I explained in the concept. Do you have any doubts? See, Neta, you told asking now, the research methodology is very, very important. Basic research, applied research, and problem-oriented research. Problem, what you are asking, that is the problem solving. It's a quantitative or the qualitative, that you have to be find out. Okay. Your topic is also problem solving. So how do you make it a problem solving? Means identify the issues, understand the everyone interest, list the possible solution, evaluate the options, select an options or options, document the agreement. Documentation, you have to make an agreement, agree on the contingency, and monitoring the evaluation. Isha, what's your doubt? Isha Gupta, please unmute yourself and ask the question. Thank you, Rosemary. Isha Gupta. And Dr. P. Chandran.
Thank you, madam. I hope there is no doubt in this session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Sir, shall I?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Please leave.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam.